Good evening. Welcome to the April 8th Town Council continuation of the COW for budget deliberations. All councilors present with the exception of Councilor Baumgardner. We are working on planning and development services first this evening. It's on page 137. And I believe we have staff present. Yes.
Councilor Baumgardner just texted that he's on Hartford. He's unlikely to make it tonight.
Councilor Baumgardner is not going to make it tonight because he's in Hartford.
Still right now.
Thank you.
He thinks he's still on the Senate up there.
Okay. Councilor Parker, would you like to start us off with account 1046, please?
$1,403,555. I so moved.
Second. Moved by Parker and seconded by Franco. Good evening. Would you like to introduce yourselves for the people at home watching, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the council. John Reiner, Director of Planning and Development Services. With me tonight, on my left, Deb Jones, Assistant Director, and on my right, Paige Bronk, Manager of Community and Economic Development. Briefly, I'll go over some of the highlights of what we're doing and our budget. Normally this time of year, we'll also focus a little bit on some of the high points of our yearly highlights and things we've accomplished. At our last meeting before the Committee of the Whole, we did go over our annual report and some of the bigger picture items that we're working on. And again, the market analysis from a few years back really had us working on that growth of the sense of place, sense of community in Groton, and as we're trying to attract businesses and people to the town, thinking about that 26,000 commuters that we have within the town and trying to attract some more of them to start moving here, living here, as we get the growth in the near future with electric boats workforce. Some of the bigger projects that we've seen happen over the course of the last year that have really been significant. All of us are pretty excited about Thayer Mahan. Not only, in the past couple of years did they move into the airport business park, but now working with them to take over Groton Heights. That's something that we're real excited about. A lot of the outreach and marketing efforts that we've been doing via our economic development website, and really getting that monthly newsletter out to letting people know what we're doing around town. I think the council knows that we had put out the RFP for the Sealy School, working with an economic development firm on that, and later this week we'll be meeting with a couple of council members and staff to look at the number of proposals that we received for that project, which is also very exciting. Mystic Education Center, we're still working with a preferred developer. Haven't gone public with that information yet, working with the state as well as the town, trying to move that along, and the developer. And that's going to be a really fantastic development. I think a lot of people will be excited about that. We've seen some great development this past year, also in that airport business park with both Beard Brewery and Mystic Cheese going in there, adding some expansions, and continuing to see some positive growth in downtown Mystic. I think a lot of that's an outgrowth out of the Mystic Streetscape project, both Central Hall of what we've seen there, as well as just some of the smaller businesses like Sift, putting on an addition, really successful business there right now. So, that's some of the bigger picture things that we're real excited about, as well as other projects all around town, whether it's the apartments going in over on Route 12 in Gunjiwamp, about 144 units over there, as well as some other expansions of retail operations over on Route 12, the demolition of there was a property over there on the corner of Walker Hill and Route 12, and now we got about a 24,000 square foot mixed retail building going in there, as well as other growth things happening in town. Specifically for our budget, so kind of just cutting to the chase of things, nothing really new in this year's budget over last year's or previous years. Still our biggest expense, as in most years, is our personnel line item, as well as are looking at some of the projects that we're doing, specifically excess property management. That's something that we have been doing this year, whether it's appraisals, phase 1 environmentals, and other professional services for that. Another item that we looked at budgeting for this year is future tax increment financing analysis in that line item, as well as something called the Opportunity Zone. If people aren't familiar with that, that was a federally designated zone. The town of Groton had requested 2 areas in town to be federal opportunity zones. We did get one of those, and the feds are still working on the rules for that, so that's something we'd be looking to work with a marketing, economic development consultant to help us really put together a framework so that we can explain to developers what that program is, defining the area a little bit, and just getting the good word out on that. That's something that we've been receiving calls on every couple to few weeks about the opportunity zone. Again, it's a tax program, an IRS tax program that can benefit future development within that zone. Happy to answer any specific questions, or we can get into some of the nitty-gritty on these budget items.
Do councilors have questions for staff? Councilor Franco.
So in the financing plan, it states that on building and related permits, since 2008, you're projecting basically, well, this year you're projecting approximately $29,000 increase. And then for 2020, you're expecting, since 2018, a $42,000 increase. So are we projecting this to just keep going up as time goes on?
Yeah, so actually, interestingly enough, so when we did our estimate as we were putting the budget together a couple of months ago for building and related permits, our estimate was about $384,000 for the whole year. As of today, we're actually at $411,000. So it wouldn't surprise me if by the end of the year, we're actually closer to $450,000 in building permit fee revenue for this year. So a much higher number than initially anticipated. If you remember, about a year or so ago, we raised our building permit fees a modest amount to make it more equal with some of the surrounding communities and be more consistent with generally what was happening in Connecticut, as well as just an increase in activity that we've been seeing around town. So that helps offset some of what we're asking for from the general fund.
It definitely does. So in 2020, you're sitting at 397. With what you foresee in the future, is 397 an accurate number at this time?
It could be, it's always tough to tell, you know, estimating some of these numbers. I'd rather be a little bit more conservative on this, and then, you know, at the end of this, I mean, we'll have, from where we estimated in last year's budget, it was about $340,000. So that's a surplus, so extra money going into the general fund of about $110,000. Could we move that 397 up a little bit based off of this year's projections? We probably could, but I don't want to go too high on that.
So so with all the schools that are coming on and people are looking to develop, they're going to be taking out permits on these, and they're based on the value of what they're going to be, right?
Correct.
And that's all taking into consideration the 397?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I prefer you err on the side of conservative there as well. So we have Councilors Perry and Atwater.
How many people have you hired in the last 2 years, new people?
We don't have any replacing existing staff or growing of positions.
Growing in positions.
The only change we've had is last year's budget. We had one part-time office assistant go from part-time to full-time. It was a change in 20 hours a week to 35. Other than that, there's been no increase in staff.
I just noticed that the increase in personnel costs have gone from $1,132,698 in 2018 to $1,269,071. I'm just wondering, that was 6.4 and 5.3%. And the figure that I got as I subtracted out those two dates was $136,373 increase.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we voted to improve salaries for you and for Paige earlier, and that was a good move. I think we made a good move to do that. But it wasn't that much. I'm wondering where the rest of the money goes.
So sometimes one of the things that's difficult with estimating the personnel expenses, so in the time that I've been here, about 4.5 years, we've had a pretty significant amount of staff turnover, and sometimes all of that, or a position might be vacant for a period of time, that doesn't always get reflected. So if every position in the department was filled for the entire year, some of those older numbers may have been a little bit higher. So we're always going on the assumption that we're going to be fully staffed all year long. In the time I've been here, we've never been fully staffed for the whole time. I think right now we're going through one of those longer periods where we actually have everybody fully staffed, and no one's planning on leaving right now, knock on wood.
Okay. I can understand how that would create some wobbling in the figures.
Mr. Burt, did you want in, or should I go to the other counselors? Counselor Atwater and then Heath.
Just a general question of my ignorance, I guess. The Great Blue Survey,
Yes.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, so I want to say probably 3 years ago now, we did a survey. Great Blue is the name of a company, a Connecticut-based survey company, and we've done, I think, us as planning and economic development, and us also working with the Parks and Rec Department. We've done 2 or 3 surveys utilizing their services over time. Statistically significant surveys. So as opposed to a Survey Monkey that's put up on the webpage, which it's whoever clicks on it, these are actually, again, statistically significant. So you're actually getting real good data about the town. We had done some trying to understand growth and development, as well as some marketing and economic development information. The survey results are on our economic development webpage. It's something that's out there. We really got some good information about what people were looking for, as well as understanding of some of the programs we have in town.
I think I have a couple of number questions. On the overtime pay, on page 138, line item 5104, I'm assuming that most of your staff is on, or not on hourly wage. You're I can't think of the term I want, contracted or
A good amount of the staff.
salaried employee, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, a good amount of the staff are salaried employees. This actually goes into, so a lot of our administrative staff, so, and supporting our boards and commissions. So the night meetings for Linda Galetta. So if you come to the front counter, there's Linda Galetta and Kara Hovland, who sit at the front, as well as Lauren Post, and even Seamus Quinn, one of our building inspectors. They were all hourly employees. If they get callbacks for inspections, as well as any night meetings that the 3 of those positions would support, it's overtime. And that's all contractual.
I think. And then one other on 5290. Back in 2018, you had a budget of $94,949. The next year it went to 50,000, a drop of roughly 50%. And then from 2019 to 20, you're increasing it from 50,000 up to 62, which is an increase of about 25%. I'm wondering why there's such a fluctuation in that.
So this is our special projects account. So when we were doing things like initiating tax increment financing for the first time, that's a $50,000 project. Some of the money came from here. We actually were able to, that year when we did that, we were able to utilize some of those salary savings that I was talking about before. So if there are other special projects that we'd identify on a yearly basis of a need, we would put it in this account. So this account of all of our accounts probably fluctuates the most.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Heath?
Yeah.
I hesitate to ask this question because I know my boss watches this. I'm usually on the other side. I'm over where you are in my job, 7 days a week. And what they do is, okay, I think you slept a second ago. 384,000 is the estimate for where we were finishing, and now you're saying it's 450,000 and then for next year, we're saying 397,000. They would tell me I'm sandbagging the number. I tell them exactly what you said. I'm being conservative because I don't want to get slapped at the end of the month or the end of the year or whatever for over-promising. So I just need to drill down a little bit on this, and I hope that he's not watching this.
Which account is that?
It is building and related permits under the financing plan.
So first, I want to say thank you, because this is a line item usually nobody really gets into. And it's really important, because this is revenue that we're bringing in. So I'm glad you're all giving this a fine eye. Please.
So what's driving the 450,000 that you say we could get this year, or even just 412, and why wouldn't it happen next year?
So the 411,000, so when I checked on, today is the 7th, the 8th, when we checked on Thursday, the number was $411,604. That's actual revenue from building permits so far this year. We still have May and June, so I'm assuming we're going in, we know this is a busier time of year, even if it's for roofs and decks and sheds and small additions, we're gonna see more revenue coming in. So could that number, I think we'll at least get to $430,000 this year. Could it get up to 450 or more? It could, but it's hard to really tell. A lot of times when we're projecting and estimating revenues for building permits, we think about, all right, what are the things pending in the pipeline, as well as what do we foresee happening? And, you know, some smaller or larger house renovations, those are things we really can't account for. We just try to look at our general trends of what we're looking at. So it's not that we're, all good questions, not trying to sandbag it. I'd rather be more conservative. So it's almost by us taking a lower number, saying, well, let's stick with 397,000 for next year. That's going to require initially a little bit more money out of the general fund for our department, whereas it'd be very easy for me to say, oh yeah, let's say it's going to be $600,000. It'll have less of an impact. So I'm trying to be a little more conservative on the other end.
Sure.
And not overinflate what I think we'll bring in.
But why wouldn't it be the same number next year?
It all depends on, you know, this year if Joe Smith put a big addition on his house, that building permit fee might be $2,000. I'm just making a number up. Well, if he doesn't, that same person isn't doing that, you know, it's different applications every year. It's different developments every year. We just had a permit pulled for the second building on those 144 multifamily apartments over by Gunjiwamp and Route 12. That was a very expensive permit that we weren't expecting just yet. That just jumped the number up a bit.
Gotcha. And so next year, some of the big things that we would expect would be Oral School, maybe Thayer Man.
Yes.
Maybe another school.
Well, Thayer Mahan's in the city. So that's a city.
It's still the town.
Yep.
But not building permits.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so
okay.
tax revenue, yes. Also next year, Cardinal Honda, I'm expecting a significant building permit for that. They have plans in right now going through the planning process. There's a hotel that is going to be coming in, and the Route 12 Tollgate Plaza, some additions there that'll be happening. So there are some significant projects that are coming in next year, but it's hard for me to really estimate, and I don't want to overshoot that number.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, my boss would say increase that number 20,000, take 20,000 out of general funds number and cut 20,000 from the budget. That's what he'd tell me.
Yeah.
If I was sitting over there.
Okay. And I think, you know, with looking at the estimates and the projections that we're getting.
They would tell me to cut 50,000 out of that, to be honest.
If that's what the council wanted to do, we certainly could play with that number a bit. Again, this is the first full year of these building permit, the fee increases, so we're still trying to get a handle on it. Could we increase that estimated number a little bit and still be safe? I think that we could. I just wouldn't want to go too far to that.
Counselor Aubry?
It's just a very small number, but I'm wondering why on page 138, number 5220, you have a line item here, utilities, fuel, and mileage, when in fact fuel and so forth are being done in a separate account now. Do we reimburse
Is this
for-
under 5220?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, okay. So we actually have yes, town fuel and mileage for town cars is something, separate line item. This is if anyone has to use their own personal vehicles.
I see.
So in the
Okay.
time I've been here, we actually are one vehicle less. We didn't replace one when it went out of service. So to avoid the expense of getting another vehicle, we've just increased that number by a couple $100. We thought that was the more responsible way, trying to manage how we use our fleet a little bit better.
Okay.
Most of that money is actually cell phone reimbursement under that line, that code.
Yes.
It's mostly cell phones.
Oh,
Counselor
yeah,
Franklin.
yeah, the
Oops,
top
sorry.
end of that, I wasn't sure if you were talking the mileage reimbursement or just the account as a whole.
If I might, myself, because we have conversations regularly throughout the year with all that you're doing and being involved with it, I would not be anything but very comfortable with your budget. I think you all work hard, you all do a great job, and you're really turning Groton around.
Thank you. We're trying. We have a great team. It really is a team effort. I'm very proud to work with the people that I do. It makes my day a lot easier.
Counselor Franco, wanted to speak again?
So I'm going to go back to the financing plan, and I would like to ask the town manager for his recommendation.
I'd be
As-
comfortable with 420 to 425 if the finance director was too.
Are we talking about 2020?
Yes.
Yes.
What we'll do at the end of the year, we always go back, and revisit revenues in May before we set the mill rate. So that's the time we'll make adjustments, up or down, either way.
But that'll change what we actually give the department.
No. If you're changing his revenue, no, that doesn't impact the
The
operating
expenditure
budget.
budget, yeah.
It'll
Doesn't.
change the general fund line.
Just the general fund, right.
Okay.
Counselor Zapere?
I move the council appropriate $1,403,555 for the zoning and planning commission.
We've already have that number on the floor, Counselor Zapere.
We did.
We did. We started, that's how you start discussion. All right, are there any other comments or questions? Counselor Schmidt, then we'll go back to Heaton.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for the fantastic energy that you have fostered in the department and moving things forward. It makes a big difference in people's attitudes about the town, and just to know that it's growing so well and being directed so well by the three of you, it makes everyone very, very happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Heaton.
5290, I apologize, I forgot to ask this because I was so happy to be on this side of the table for a change. Professional technical, in 2018 was 94,949. It was down to 5516 this year, and the town manager's number is 60,016. So I think you sort of touched on this, but I just want to clarify that what is that change?
So the addition there is this new opportunity zone. So a number of the items are pretty similarly financed as requests from last year. I think just about everything is almost a one-for-one number. It's looking for that $9,500 to assist us in developing a program for the opportunity zones. And again, this is a number, this account 5290, I promise you next year will look different than this. Every year, this is the one account that has some fluctuation based on things that we might need to respond to in the market, as well as new initiatives or programs that are coming up, as well as directives from the council, and continuing to implement recommendations in the plan of conservation and development and others.
I think what you're asking is why did I cut out about 2,500 or so from what he requested to?
Well, actually, no. Why did it drop from 94 to 50?
Okay, I
and now
thought you'd
it's
also
going
asked,
back up to
I might
62?
cut, okay. I was just gonna say that 2,500 difference between the request is credit card processing fees. We're still working on what to do with credit cards, so that's dropped out.
All right, so just to follow on to the previous question, if, I feel your pain about being conservative with that, but if that number goes up and you end up not needing the extra money from the general fund that's been allocated, what happens to that money? Does that go back to the general fund, or are you able to reprogram it, say, to professional technical if they need additional funds in that department.
I believe that's what Director Landry spoke to earlier. If you could just address
Right.
that again.
Any excess revenue that comes at the end of the year, that would just flow into general fund, the fund balance.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else with questions for staff? Councilor Ober.
And then you periodically put out a statement showing us these differences, correct?
Right. I provide the report that shows the revenue to date and expenditures year to date.
I think we just got one today, didn't we?
Yes.
For March.
Online?
Amen. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no further discussion, we're going to vote on account 1046, Planning and Development Services. All those in favor of $1,403,555, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. We are at 8 counselors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks. We are on to Parks and Recreation, account 1064 on page 159, please. And we are at, I believe, Councilor Franco, correct? Yes.
December, okay. Make a motion for account 1064 for $1,592,779.
Second.
Moved by Franco, seconded by Schmidt. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Berry, would you like to introduce your staff, please?
Sure.
Thank
To
you.
my right is Eric Morrison. He's the superintendent of the golf course and also manager of parks. To my immediate left is Mary Jo Riley, who's the supervisor for the senior center. And further to my left is Jerry Locken, who's manager of recreation services.
Thank you.
Oh, and I'm Mark Berry, director of Parks and Recreation.
What would you like to tell us about your account?
Sure. So the budgets that we presented to the town manager provides the resources necessary to match the level of services that our participants are telling us they want. Parks and Recreation is an essential part of the solution to building a community where people want to live, work, and play, and this budget is a commitment to that solution. Included in our budgets, and I'm speaking across the board now, is a commitment to broaden our reach within the community, particularly identifying and serving the underserved, and also broadening our community partnership with local businesses. And we're doing this through our new community outreach coordinator. We're also looking to analyze barriers and perceptions to participation, identify solutions, and increase usage at the senior center. We're looking to expand Camp Button, which is a special needs camp. To meet the needs of the community, last year we had to turn people away, so this year we've added more staff to the Camp Button program. We're also looking to improve the tee time registration at the golf course through new registration software. And finally, we're looking to invest in the maintenance of existing facilities to provide a quality user experience funded through our special revenue fund and the CIPs. So specifically the 104 budget. The 104 budget is comprised mostly of full-time staff, including park staff, office administrators, programmers, supervisors, and the director. There's also a number of part-time staff included, that is building monitors and van drivers at the senior center and seasonal summer staff for parks. So our proposed budget is 3.5% higher than it was in FYE 19. And that increase reflects changes in both personnel and operating expenses. Increases in the personnel side include overtime to provide support for community service projects. A couple of years ago, we started working with the chief selects on particularly large community projects. They provided us with 100 to 130 volunteers. Most of that support comes on the weekends, and those projects are on the weekends, and we had to increase the overtime budget to provide the support for those projects. It also includes the community outreach coordinator. Last year, we came to the council, and the council approved a community outreach coordinator position, which was a 40-hour salaried position, and it was our decision not to replace a 35-hourly OA3 position. And finally, the other increase in personnel is the collective bargaining agreement, the negotiated pay increases. On the operations side, we've added money to materials and professional technical services, and this is associated with relocating the playground that's at Pleasant Valley over to the community center. We've also included money, $7,500 for, that's 1/2 of the first of 2 annual payments for the surf rake. Since acquiring the surf rake, we've collected 180 yards of seaweed. So that's a summary of the budget, and at this time, I'd welcome any questions that you all may have.
So we'll stick with questions for account 1064 at this point, since that's the number that's on the floor. Do the councilors have questions for Mr. Berry? Councilor Atwater and then Zepari.
Just for my clarification, on page 159, accounts of 5102 and 3, and then down below, I think it's 5110. One of them says part-time personnel and seasonal personnel, and then down below it says regular part-time. Could you explain to me the difference between part-time personnel and regular part-time?
Sure. So we have van drivers that fall into one of those 2 categories. Regular part-time are 24 to 30 hours a week. The part-time personnel, that fluctuates.
On call kind of thing?
On call, right, yes.
Okay.
And then no, never mind, that's where I'll stop there.
And I'm assuming your new hire, the outreach person, is Jessica?
She is, yes, that's
I have
correct.
to tell you, I met her last week, and she is dynamite. She is just a whirling dervish, so a good addition to your department.
Yes, we've been extremely pleased with her performance to date.
Councilor Zepari.
I noticed that seasonal employees went up by 130% between 2018 and 2019, and another 46.5% between 2019 and this budget. Why are we having so many increased seasonal workers?
Okay, so I think you're referring to the actual for 2018, which was 13,027, and then the request for 2020. Is that the difference you're speaking to?
The first one, I went from 2018 to 2019 estimate.
Right.
And that went 13027 to 30,000. So that's 130.3%. And then we went from 2019 estimate to 2020, and that was a difference of 13,960, or 46.5%. So it's a sizable increase in this particular
Sure.
area, and I'm wondering why we're having it.
Sure. So in the actual for 2018, the 13,027 was because we were only able to hire 1 seasonal staff person for parks. So the actual is what we expended. Our request was probably closer to 40,000 at that time. The adjusted was what was approved in 2019. We were actually able to get 4 seasonal employees for parks. Now, during that course of time, they go on vacation and things like that. So we don't have 4 full-time seasonal employees during the course of the summer. So that's why there was only $30,000 expended.
I'm just wondering, you got along with 1, and then you got 4 after that.
We didn't get along with 1.
Oh, what happened?
We got by, but we didn't get along.
I don't know the difference between getting by
Okay,
and getting
well,
along.
I can tell you the difference was in the number of phone calls that we got and the number of complaints that we got about fields, why is the grass 2.5 feet high here? Why isn't this done?
Okay.
Why isn't that done?
Okay.
That's the difference.
I was just gonna say, I got a lot of those calls too.
Call Mark.
Are there other questions? I just wanted to say, are we still working on the potential for contracting with the Thames River Heritage Park for shuttle service this summer for the water taxi?
Yes, I
Excellent.
believe that is all set. We have a driver lined up for the summer.
And so they will be reimbursing, they will be paying the
Yes,
driver's
yeah,
fee, so that won't
and-
cost the town anything.
Right, that's coming from a different account. I'm not sure, it's not coming out of this
Right.
account.
Okay, great. And then I just wanted to emphasize what you said about the value of the Chief Selectees program. They did a wonderful job at the Nautilus Overlook Park, all the work that they did there. So thank you for reaching out and working with the community to get things done for the town.
Yes, and the previous year, they worked at Paquonic Plains, and this year, we've scheduled them. They're actually going to help us disassemble the playground at Pleasant Valley, and then they're going to help us reassemble it at the community center. And that playground is worth about $85,000.
And where will it go at the community center?
It's going to go out behind the community center. There's the hallway that connects C wing with B wing. So if you went in through the main entrance and there's another set of double doors, if you went right out those, the playground is going to be right there between the building and the existing basketball court. And the reason that we chose that location was because parents with siblings could kind of keep an eye on the kids, and the kids wouldn't be too far away versus putting it around the corner of the building where parents wouldn't be able to see their kids.
Very nice, thank you. Counselor Aubrey?
I'm just curious, is that the only way to get to it? To go through the doors?
Oh, no, they can go around the building, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So it'll be fully available for the neighborhood as well.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Anyone else with questions for Mr. Berry for the Parks account? Counselor Aubrey?
We do have another playground down at the end of Depot Road, though, don't we also? for that
There is,
neighborhood?
yes. Yep.
Okay.
All right, if,
Just ask a quick question.
Counselor Franco?
I know we brought this up last year as well, but can you explain the difference between the 1064 account and the 3240 account?
Sure. Like I said earlier, the 1064 account is primarily full-time salaries. The 3240 account is all the expenses related to programs. So that's instructors, materials and supplies, and all the other associated costs with offering a program.
All right, because I just wanted to let you know that when I take all three Parks and Recs, because you're the golf club, the golf course, the Parks and Rec, and the Rec and Senior activities all together, your total budget you're asking for less money, but your program money has has increased though. You're bringing in more, isn't that correct?
Yes, that's our projected revenues for 3240 are higher for next year. That's correct.
All right.
We'll be discussing that one in two more accounts, so.
Well, I just wanted to bring it up because if we're paying for salaries now, and then to look and see that we're actually increasing revenue as well, I think that's a combination of both. And that you're actually asking for less money than you did last year altogether. Thought it was
If
important.
it's not too late, we could ask for more.
No, I just think that's important for us to know this, and I thank you.
Thank
And I think
you.
you're doing a great job. Thanks. Oh, one more question, I'm sorry. On account number, well, in the equipment, machinery, and furniture, you had like a $25,000 expense this year. It looks like was that the
Yes.
community center?
No, that's actually the town manager approved, because there's a salary savings. We had 2 people retire earlier this year, and one of those positions it took a while to fill both of those positions, so there's a salary savings from that. So I approached the town manager about making some purchases with that salary savings, so we wouldn't have to introduce those expenditures in the 2020 budget.
All right, thank you.
Counselor Overy.
Can I ask a question that doesn't pertain to the budget?
Sure.
Had a question.
Counselor Atwater wants a consensus.
I'm just wondering, do you work with the Board of Education as far as like when West Side is having the new school built and they're doing the same thing in Mystic? We'll lose fields at that time, won't we?
We will. The work that's being done at, not Cladchester, at Cutler, the work that's being done at Cutler, the area where they're going to start building the new school is right on the athletic fields. And it's not going to be until 2022 that those fields are available again. So we have talked to the Board of Ed, made them aware that we're concerned about this, and you know, we'll do what we can to provide whatever field space we have. But I can tell you, and I know you've heard this before, we don't have enough field space now, and losing more fields is only going to complicate, make the problem worse.
Do you think it, I know I'm really getting off the subject, and I apologize for that, but I think it's important, and I'm happy you're looking forward to it. But I was wondering, do you suppose we could coordinate anything with the base to use a couple of their fields when we get into that position?
From what I understand, it's difficult to get onto the base. It's not as simple as just driving in. You know, you have to get clearance, and there's quite a bit of work involved. From what I understand, that may not be correct, but okay.
Well, I would think because of their location, but we'll talk about that more. I'm sure there's a way we could probably, they're right there, so there's probably a way we could come up with something.
Counselor Heed, a budget question? No? Okay. Any
So
other questions on this
All
account?
the fields are going away? Tennis courts, baseball
No, I
fields?
believe the tennis courts will still be there, but it's my understanding from the plans that I've seen, the softball, baseball field, and the multipurpose field is where the new.
see.
Now, once the old building gets torn down, then they're putting new fields in. I'm not sure that it's going to be a one-to-one match, though. I think there's one less baseball or softball field that's going in there. So, but for the next 3 years, we're considerably short fields at that location.
Mr. Lockton? Thank you for using the microphone.
So regarding the field spaces, just right now, I spent most of today actually issuing permits for various users to use fields in the town. No group, no youth sport group, not Groton Little League, not Groton Soccer, not Groton Lacrosse, not the Football League, not anybody got all of their field requests. Beyond that, adults who are looking to use sport fields are continually prevented from doing that because the field space is used for youth sports almost exclusively. We just listened to the planning director talk about trying to make Groton a place where people want to come and invest and, you know, prepare for the next wave of workers at Electric Boat or, you know, just living in Groton. We need field space for those adults who want to be active, who are coming to work at EB or any other business in town to live here. And it's really frustrating to tell these people no. You know, come to Groton, but you can't really live your life here. So we really need to address that. We had a project to build fields up at the Merritt property right over here, and we built the middle school instead. Those fields need to be built in the town so we can accommodate. You know, if it's not there, we need it somewhere else. So just, you know, and this problem with these middle schools going offline is it's going to be just absolutely miserable. So, you know, it's not anywhere in our budget here this year, but we need to address that situation and and make Groton a place where people want to come and live. Those people are going to be taxpayers. Those people are going to be contributing to the economic development of the town. So I appreciate the question, Councilor Olry, because it really is something that we need to take a look at.
Yeah, I agree.
Are there any other questions on this particular budget item? Councilor Zafari?
Do you know how our neighboring towns are doing in providing field space?
Right now, the towns that do a good job in providing field space to various athletic organizations, there are two that are probably, that stand out as doing maybe a better job than others. And that's actually New London, with their high school complex, has two artificial surface fields that are used continually on the weekends, that generate revenue and that bring in a lot of people to the town, to New London to play. And also more recently, Stonington has begun using their high school athletic artificial surface for those types of activities as well. But by and large, I'd say our portion of the state does not a really good job, but Groton maybe even less than most.
I'm interested in that because as I drive around town and I look at Mitchell Park and I look at Washington rather on Mitchell Street, and I look at the Quantic Plains, and I look at Farquhar Park. I think we're doing, I get the feeling, I don't see the fields like that all around town when I visit other towns. Now, it might be because I don't look at the other towns as closely as I look at Groton, especially in the last couple of years. But I think we're doing a darn good job. Now, we are doing, you're saying we're rehabilitating some fields, so we're going to be short. But I think that there are not many other towns that measure up to what we're doing.
I would say you're right in terms of the job that Eric and the Parks crew do in maintaining Pequannock Plains Park or Sutton Fields or Farquhar. There is no town in the area that does the job that the professionals at Groton Parks and Rec Parks crew do. They maintain those fields incredibly well. In terms of having spaces available, though, we're middle of the pack at best, and probably bottom half in terms of having field space to accommodate the needs. Other towns, Washington Park is a great place. There's a fair amount of adults that do get to play softball at Washington Park in the city, but adult sports in the town of Groton facilities is woefully unsupported. I mean, we don't have the space.
Thank you.
It has been like that for a while. I know when I was on the RTM years ago, I called neighboring towns and everybody seemed to have a shortage of playing fields. So that's a long-term thing, though, that we have to look at, and nothing really that we can do about it in this particular account right now. So is there any other discussion on 1064? Okay, seeing no further discussion on Parks and Recreation account 1064, we'll vote on $1,592,779. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously, 8-0-0. And we are going to page 163, Shennecossett Golf Course, account 2010. I believe Councilor Heed.
Move the number $1,235,349.
Second.
Moved by Heed and seconded by Franco. And would you like to introduce your
Sure.
new staff member?
Yes, to my far right is Todd Goodhue. He's the golf pro at Shennecossett.
Thank you.
So budget 2010 is a special revenue account. It pays for the operation of the golf course, including wage and benefits, post-employee benefits, insurance, and operating expenses. Annually, the golf course pays back to the town for services provided to HR through HR and finance. Last year, that payment was nearly $60,000. The golf staff is committed to increasing revenue, reducing costs, and improving customer service. In an increasingly competitive golf market, we are continuing to take an aggressive marketing approach of underutilizing times at the golf course through midday specials. We're currently working on developing a partnership with the Hampton Inn and Hilton Gardens for an exclusive package for hotel guests. If that program is successful, we will expand that. They continue to work with the Recreation Division to introduce children to the game of golf, and they're currently reviewing various golf software packages that will improve the user online tee time registration experience and assist with guest check-in and reporting. The proposed FYE 2020 budget is 9% lower than it was in 2019, or FYE 19. And that decrease is primarily due to the reduction in equipment replacement or equipment replacement purchases. The golf course equipment funding previously was in the fleet fund. In FYE 19, it was pulled from the fleet fund and put into the golf course. Staff has developed an asset replacement plan and will be making contributions to replace that equipment on an annual basis. That's kind of a summary of this fund.
So you are doing your own fleet, if you will, fund within
Yes, we're doing our
the
own
golf course
fleet fund within the golf course versus having it being managed by Public Works. Not that it was being managed poorly, it just, we were making 100% contributions into it, but not getting 100% back in equipment purchases.
I have to say, I've been sitting in on some of the Golf Advisory Board meetings, and you have quite the active, interested group, and they are very enthusiastic, and they bring lots of fresh ideas, and you gentlemen are very open to their ideas and their suggestions, and vice versa. So I know you're trying some innovative things this year as far as the rates, and trying to draw new groups of people into the course. So thank you for that.
Yes, and I did ask Todd just a few minutes ago if he could update me on the membership report. And Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, we have 36 new members, and we have 17 associate members, which we previously, as you recall, we came in front of the council a month or so ago and introduced the idea of an associate membership. We looked at the barriers that are keeping millennials 22 to 35 from participating in golf. One of those was the cost. So we proposed to significantly reduce the cost of this new associate membership. And so far it's given us, what did you say, 15? 17, sorry, 17. Yeah, we've already exceeded our goal, and we're only into the first week of the kind of membership period.
Right, that's what I was going to say. It starts April 1st, and you already
Right.
have exceeded your goal?
We've already exceeded our goal.
Excellent. That's good progress. Any questions? Councilor Zepari?
My understanding is that the golf course is pretty much self-sufficient. You don't require funds from the town. The funds you generate from your fees for playing golf are sufficient to maintain the golf course.
That's correct, with the exception of capital improvement projects. We do, you will see capital improvement projects for the golf course, but outside of CIP projects, all of the rest of the expenses associated with running the golf course are paid through greens fees and memberships. That is correct.
Councilor Heed?
I did notice, compared to the previous department, that you're telling the story with your increased, like you drop your costs, you're appealing to millennials, you're trying to address that. And, it tells the story in the financing plan that your season memberships are up, your greens fees are forecasted or budgeted to be up, so on and so forth. But the fund balance applied, there's still a fund balance of $47,000 this year. And of course, that's down significantly. But just curious where that's coming from. Is that general fund or is that something else?
No, we do have a fund, the golf course has a fund balance.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and we try to maintain that at around 10% of the total operating budget. And generally, what Eric is forced to do, we run the golf course based on our revenue. So he will look at what expenses, or what he has to give up in order for us to meet our revenue projection. So we try very hard not to use that operating, or use that fund balance, but you know, sometimes it happens when we have a disastrous weather. I mean, we live and die by the weather, you know, so.
If you look on 165 is the full page with the golf course revenue fund, if you're interested in looking in details on that. Are there other questions? Councilor Overy.
Do we still have a dog? And how's that working with the, yeah, coyotes?
The dog doesn't chase the coyotes, unfortunately, but no, it's working out well. The coyotes, they're still around. We haven't seen any damage on the course yet this year since the ground is thawed, so hopefully they'll just roam around and not cause any more damage to the greens.
Take good care of the dog.
Anything else on 2010? Okay, seeing no further discussion, we will vote on account 2010 in the amount of $1,235,349. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. Thank you very much. And we have account 3240, the special enterprise fund, I believe, on page 167. And we are at Councilor Overy, special revenue fund, rather, sorry.
Let's see, I believe we'll move a number of $1,242,238.
Second.
Moved by Overy and seconded by Atwater. Mr. Berry.
So account 3240 is another special revenue fund. Expenses for this fund are paid through program fees, and there is no impact to the general fund. Expenses covered include instructor fees, seasonal and part-time staff, program materials and supplies, and other associated costs with running programs. Our proposed FYE 2020 budget is up 13.6%. The increase reflects changes in personnel and operating expenses. In the personnel side, as I mentioned earlier, we're proposing to increase Camp Button in order to meet the needs of the community. We are adding some additional instructors, and we've also proposed for a paid internship position within the department. On the operating side, increases are due to custodial services at Esker Point Beach. Those were previously paid for by Public Works. We are proposing to have a customer relations management software that will allow the community outreach coordinator. She has, since she started, the report she gave me 2 weeks ago, she'd already been out to 53 different businesses. This software will allow her to kind of track all those contacts. And I believe tomorrow there's a presentation being made to the IT steering committee. And this software may be utilized by a couple of other departments also. We're also proposing the half of the first of 2 annual payments, again for the surf rake. So there was $7,500 in 1064. We're proposing to pay $7,500 of the surf rake in this account. We're proposing a community assessment and focus group looking at barriers and perceptions to consideration and usage among boomers. This is again that project at the senior center. This is going to be paid for through fund balance. So the money that we've accumulated over the years, we're reinvesting in this particular project. We're also proposing to replace a piece of equipment at the senior center. Again, this is being paid for through fund balance. We're proposing to put locks on the doors at the senior center. Not all of the rooms have locks on them, and we've had issues with outside user groups coming into the facility and walking into a room. We're proposing to pay for locks for the doors, again, through fund balance. The divider in the communities, in the gym in the community center is a firm paneled divider that requires 2 people to take out. I think it's the original divider to the gym. Again, it requires 2 people and it requires annual maintenance. We're proposing to remove that and put in a curtain, a cloth fabric type divider, 1 person, very simple, low maintenance. And again, that's coming from fund balance. We're also proposing to replace the existing donated equipment in the fitness equipment in the community center with commercial grade equipment. We've had a number of requests from people that are using the facility that would like to get in and exercise while their children are participating in classes, and we've had to say no to them. And we'd also like to open this up eventually to other users. So essentially, we're just trying to maximize the usage at the community center. And again, this is being paid through fund balance.
Very good. Do we have questions on 3240? Councilor Heath.
Just a question on the fund balance, because this is the second time it's come up. Where is that money coming from?
So I'll just use round numbers. We generate $120,000 in program revenue. Our expenses come to $100,000. That $20,000 goes into fund balance. The next year, we generate $150,000 in revenue. Expenditures are $100,000. That $50,000 goes into the fund balance. So over time, we have accumulated enough fund balance so that that will allow us to make these investments.
So wondering why that doesn't go into the general fund, or if it doesn't, like it reaches a certain point.
I don't know the history on it.
Yeah, it's a special revenue fund, and it was designed, we thought the fund was going to be self-supporting, and over time, they've moved more expenses into that fund from senior center or
Yes.
food concession, I believe, is in there too. And so those funds would remain in that special revenue fund and not revert to the general fund, because the expenditures are not in the general fund.
Councilor Atwater and then Zephyr.
I'd just like to make 2 comments. One, when I first saw that your budget went up by 13.6%, it kind of shocked me. And then you look at the other side and you realize your revenues went up by 13.6%, so there was a nice balance. The other thing I wanted to comment is on the senior center food concession. I just did some math where you served over, by my numbers, over 16,000 meals last year, which is about 63 meals a day, which I think is terrific that there's a place that people can go and get at least 1 hot meal a day. So I just want to commend you on that.
Yeah, and serving meals is an essential part of drawing people to the senior center. And they've seen that across the country. Senior centers that don't serve meals have a much lower attendance rate. And we're taking steps to try to increase the number of meals served. A few years ago, we added a grab-and-go program, and now I think monthly we're seeing about 250 meals going out through grab-and-go. And then Mary Jo and her staff we're trying to create, the Groton Senior Center is almost like a destination. So what we're doing is we're wrapping special events around meal times. So people from other senior centers are getting on a bus, coming to the Groton Senior Center to participate in a program, and it falls right around lunchtime, so that it's kind of like a lunch and learn package that we're putting together just to draw more people to the senior center.
Councilor Zephyr.
Just noticed that in the financing plan, under senior programs in 2018, there was no fund balance applied to the services that you provided. And then it went up to $18,422 last year, and you're expecting that you're gonna be funding $64,218 in 2020. I'm just wondering, that's indicating to me that the fees from these particular activities are not covering the expense, and that you're having to find other source of money for it.
Well, the 64,218, we're taking those 6 or 7 projects that we identified out of fund balance. So we recognize that we're not generating enough revenue to cover all of those additional purchases. So that's why we're choosing to take it out of fund balance. Because what we don't want to happen is for the fund balance to become so large that as it grows, the target on it gets bigger and bigger, and oh, maybe we could take 150,000 out of their fund balance and use it towards something else. So we're purposely using fund balance to pay for some of these projects.
So you lowered the fees for the people who come for those?
No, we haven't necessarily lowered the fees.
But they're not covering, because you're putting fund balance into it, they're not covering the full expense.
That's, well,
You understand what I'm saying?
I think I do, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we're choosing to draw down the fund balance
Yeah.
so that we can
But when
pay
you
for
get the
some of
fund
these.
balance- When you get the fund balance down to where you want it, there'll be a sudden increase in fees to the people that are taking those
No,
services?
no, there wouldn't be any increase in fees.
Mr. Locken wanted to say something, I believe.
Mr. Zeperi, maybe this will help you. The increase in, or use of fund balance for this year is pretty much exclusively for purchase of one-time pieces of equipment, like the pieces of equipment at the senior center. We're taking the accumulated fund balance to make a one-time purchase that's going to benefit the program for years. So, instead of, the programs themselves are going to continue to fund themselves, but this time we're using this year only, is kind of an opportunity we're taking to use some of that fund balance to buy one-time purchase equipment that's necessary for the programs for the next number of years.
Thank you.
Counselor Heed.
I do want to add that this may not be a one-time thing. We may, yeah, I don't want you next year to say, oh, well, Jerry said last year, it's only going to be a one-time thing.
I
That's
fully expect that things wear out and you'll have more than one piece of equipment to use.
okay. All right.
Counselor Heed.
Yeah, on page 169, and I appreciate your saying, if your balance grows too big, it puts a target on it, because that's exactly what I'm thinking as I'm looking at this.
I could tell.
In 2018, you had 407,000. Last year, what is it? It comes down to 388, then 324 with this budget. When you make that expenditure of 64,000, so as long as if it gets up to $1 million, I think you've got a big target on your back. 300,000 still is a kind of a big target. So I would encourage you to maintain the equipment without changing fees. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that.
Counselor Aubrey.
I just wanted to ask if, as your future plans, you probably have it, but are you going to do a overall plan for how you'd like to continue with the community center? Have an appropriate study done to maybe phase in the costs that would be needed and so forth?
Mr. Burt wanted to answer, I believe.
Oh,
That's
okay.
part of that group that we formed to look at the town-owned properties. We will be looking at what we're gonna do with the community center, and where is part of a whole picture of that building for what all departments could potentially go in there. So yeah, that's it's on our task list for this year.
Who's on that committee?
Many of the departments are represented.
Oh, I see. Is the council and the RTM represented with that?
Not at this stage. We're just analyzing the needs right now and costs, but.
So it's staff at this point?
Right.
Okay.
I had a question from a constituent that was curious about use of the senior center by other demographics. So when there aren't senior center programs going on, instead of the senior center closing up early, could it be kept open later and invite other groups to come in and use the facilities for other projects?
Currently, we are open to 7:30, 8 o'clock at night for our programs. So we try to accommodate anybody that requests space if space is available. But we're already open from 7 a.m. to 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and I don't see the need for 8 to 9 o'clock. We may be open till then, but it also adds to the budget for building supervision. If you're adding more hours later in the evening, we have to provide a supervisor. So that's kind of our catch-22. We budget till 8 o'clock at night, except for when the budget hearings are going on, we add more time for that.
So if there were groups that were interested, they would need to contact you, and then you would have to do a
Yep.
cost-benefit analysis to see if it would be worthwhile
And
to
we
keep it
do
open.
have other groups that do come in that do pay for the time to be there.
Okay, thank
And
you.
we have tried to do more evening program in that area, particularly targeting the, folks that are working during the day. So we are trying to increase the number of evening programs that we offer to try to fill, some of those empty spaces.
Thank you. Any other questions on 3240? Seeing none, we will vote on account 3240 in the amount of $1,242,238. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of the accounts that are on the schedule for this evening.
I'll make a motion to recess until Tuesday, April 16th at 6 p.m.
No. 17, Wednesday, April 17.
No,
No, Tuesday, April
16th.
16th. Oh, capital projects, right.
Tuesday, April 4/16
No,
at 6 p.m.
9th is a regular meeting.
Second.
Okay, moved by Atwater, seconded by Heed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. We are in recess.